I see a lot of familiar faces and names, and but a lot of faces and a lot of people that I've never met before. So I want to just introduce myself. I'm Steve Becker, Vice President for Health and Wellness Services for JCC Association. I've been doing this for the last 19 years, but prior to that, I was the Fitness and Aquatic Director at the Marcus JCC in Atlanta for 4 years, and before that at the Westside JCC in Los Angeles for about 20 years. So first full-time job was as the aquatic director. This is still my passion, and any way I can help, we try. The reality is this has been a very tough time for us to help aquatics because there's
it's just like I mean, like
track, but not a lot for aquatics.
But then she tries to angle some things. Like the other day, she was mentioning about how our
you have any questions? Well, I'm going to turn this over now to my colleague, Mackenzie Adams, and she's going to walk us through a lot of logistics because this is not my strength, but we're going to be doing a lot of it in the next few weeks, so it will become it. But Mac, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Okay, great. Yeah, as I was saying before, for the early birds here on the meeting, I'm sure we have a lot of Zoom veterans, but just in case you're unfamiliar with the technology, I'm sure there are a lot of people joining from landline cell phones using the iOS app and also on your laptops or desktops. So it looks a little bit different on everybody's computer. But for the folks that have called in purely using phone audio, please know that you have to mute yourself on your end. If I mute you, that means you can't talk for the rest of the meeting, but we want to make sure that you're able to contribute. So I'm going to unmute you in a few minutes, but just make sure that on your end, you're hitting mute if at all possible. There are two viewing modes in Zoom. At the top right-hand corner of your screen, there's speaker or gallery view. We have 43 participants, so you won't be able to see everybody's tile at the same time, but if you have gallery view enabled, you'll have the Brady Bunch kind of icons of everybody's screen, or if you'd rather have the picture isolated on whoever's speaking at the moment, that's speaker view. So you can toggle between those two. If you ever want to unmute yourself to contribute something, that button is at the lower left-hand part of the screen. And I'll be here to answer any questions and monitor the chat. And you can also find that in the row of icons at the bottom of the screen. This Zoom meeting will be recorded right now, just giving you a little heads up, and we will be posting it on jcca.me for all of those that couldn't join us. And later on in the meeting, Steve is going to have everybody in breakout rooms. So we know who everybody is. It would be great if you could rename your little tile. You can do that by clicking on the computer. I believe it's a setting in iOS. And if you can't find it, please feel free to send me a chat with your first name and what JCC or city that you're from. If everyone could just update that really quickly before we get started so we know who everyone is, that would be awesome. And if you need help at any point, please feel free to chat. Back to you, Steve.
So just a little more information about those breakout rooms. It's an incredible feature that Zoom offers. And because we have so many people, we're really not going to get a chance for everyone to speak to each other. But what we're going to do is take, 5 people and put you into a group, and we're going to just have you talk to each other for 7 to 10 minutes. Introduce yourself, let them know where you've been, what's going on at your JCC, and if you have time to discuss anything, then the one topic I want to put out there for you is what resources would be helpful for you during this time from JCC Association and from the field and from any source outside. And then when we come back, if we have time, we'll have one person report so you can decide who that person is going to be. And I'm going to be taking notes throughout the whole process. I'll get an update after this out to the whole field and let them know what they missed and how they can watch this if they like. And then we're going to start working on getting these resources out to you. Like I was saying initially, it's very tough because there's all these resources available with Les Mills group exercise workouts and Peloton classes for everything under the sun. And I just sent a email out to all the fitness directors about 95 workouts you can do at home, but there's not a lot for aquatics outside of dry land exercises for your swim teams. And so anything that you think would be helpful, please let us know. And based upon the size of this group going forward, what we might do is limit it to 20 people or 15 a call so that we can really get some real interaction going forward and just have multiple times to sign up. But we'll decide that after this and after we hear from all of you. I want to introduce two people who are going to speak after we do the breakouts, and they are both from the field, but they also are working for JCC Association as consultants. I'm sure you all know Bill Kaplan. He has been a resource for us for years. And Bill, just if you just introduce yourself quickly.
Which Bill, Steve? Do you mean me? Hi, Bill Kirkner. I used to be the Senior Director of Aquatics in Baltimore. I will soon be taking a job down in Alexandria, Virginia. And I'm one of the national consultants for JCCA, and I've been out to visit a bunch of the facilities over the last couple of years. So, howdy.
And Seth, are you on the call?
I am. I'm here.
That's Seth Hazen from Peninsula JCC. Also one of JCC Association consultants, and one of his specialties is aquatics as well. And then finally, Jason Stoll from the Pittsburgh JCC, and he's going to be doing a presentation today for the fitness Zoom call. So Jason, please say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure I've been to some of your centers, but being that I work on the fitness membership side, I don't know if I had an opportunity to meet with most of you. So looking forward to connecting in the future here.
So again, we're going to throw you into these breakout groups now and take the time to introduce yourselves. I was on a call yesterday and we were given a task and we ended up just talking to each other, just breaking bread and seeing what's going on in the different centers. So don't feel like you have to come back with concrete items. But if you have some time, talk about some of those resources. We'll talk about it at the end of the session as well. Mac, are we ready to go?
Yeah, so what will happen is these breakouts are automatically generated. You'll see a little button at the bottom of your screen that says join breakout meeting and then the number that you're assigned to. When we're done, and for those of you on the phone, you don't need to do anything. It'll automatically send you there. And then when we pull you guys all back in a few minutes, you can either click the button to join the main meeting room again, or it'll give you a 60-second countdown and then everybody will be brought back automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll be on the lookout for that little button and we'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Okay. Oh, goodness. Give me a second. I'm sorry. All right. All right. That's not going to work. I'm sorry. For whatever reason, it's not letting me share my presentation slides here. So I'm just going to have to work off of them. I think, so I had four
Bill,
different
let me try and make you a co-host. Do you see the little share screen button at the bottom now?
Yeah, it says you're a co-host now.
Great.
So, but I don't know that that's the there we go. There we go. Perfect. All right. So let me move this around and switch to view. All right, we'll leave it this way. Is that okay for everybody? So y'all see everything? Okay, I know we could do this better, but there we go. All right, so first of all, one of the things I wanted to talk about is it sounded like everybody in my group was was shut down. And so one of the things I wanted to touch on was realizing that everybody's looking at a slightly different sort of situation. We wanted to have a reminder about the fact that there are still some things that our facilities are a little bit different than the fitness facilities, right? If you just close the door and walk away from the fitness facilities, nothing's going to happen to them. But I know a lot of you may be thinking about this, but for some people who have been thinking more in terms of the have to shut your program down, have to worry about your staff and everything else, there are some issues that we need to keep in mind. So things to remember is stuff like water levels. Who's going in and checking the water levels in your pool? If you are still working on a skimmer-based system, and in fact, even the rollover gutter systems, you need to make sure that there's adequate water in the pools. Otherwise, you're going to end up burning your motors out. So you need to plan with respect to who's going to be going in to check. Are you checking to make sure that a lot of people have automated water leveling systems, but when was the last time you checked to actually make sure that that was working and doing what it was supposed to? Most of the time we just ignore it because we're there every day and we're there all the time. But this is one of those, you got to have stuff going to keep it in place. Second thing was disinfectant levels. I'd like to ask, but I think it would, I don't know how we're going to see it all. But the choices people have made with respect to disinfectant levels, the guidance I've seen in a bunch of places is that you should take the disinfectant level up. If you expect that you're going to be shut down for a while, that you should take the disinfectant level up to a significant level and let it burn back down. Also checking to see what people are doing with respect to their chemical automation. Hopefully a lot of you are already, for your indoor pools, on automated systems. And if you're on automated systems, checking on what levels we're at. We don't want it to be at zero. We don't want our disinfectant levels to be at zero, because you'll come back to pools that are going to be far, far away from you with respect to stuff like algae and other pathogens that'll be growing in your water. I would personally suggest a slightly higher level than you would normally keep it at, just because if you end up with a shutdown at some point and nobody can get there, you'll have a couple other days of coverage. All right, so now switching gears a little bit. I was talking in our group, a lot of people are concerned about their staff and their staff, you know, being able to make some salary, or what they can do to keep their staff active and stuff like that. So in our little small group, one of the things I was talking about is, you know, can you find a silver lining in the shutdown time? Are there things that we always know that we should be getting to, but we haven't had a chance to get to? And so some of the things that I have in mind are things like doing an overall inventory of your equipment. Your best practice, and I know some people do this, but a lot of people don't, is that you should have lists of like every single piece of equipment. What are all of your, you know, what are all of your pumps? What are all of your filters, and the serial numbers and the dates that they were put into service, and all that other sort of stuff. So this is one of those times where, without people around, you could have somebody actually go through the pump room, take pictures. All of these things have like a metal tag on them usually, or some sort of tag that has the serial number, the date of construction of the piece of equipment, the actual serial number name of the piece of equipment. And then you can go back at the same time, and you could either make when I say make a maintenance binder, you could either do that real or virtual, where you had a page that's like, here's the piece of equipment. The piece of equipment is a pump. And so the pump this is the serial number, this is when it was purchased and put into service, this is the type it is. And then you also have time now to go back into your online services and find the PDF that describes how that stuff is supposed to be managed, and all of that other sort of, and put it all together. And when I'm saying you can do that as a virtual maintenance binder, maybe what you do is create it and put all that information together in files on your local network, so that, especially if you have multiple facilities or multiple different locations. I know St. Louis, we were just talking with St. Louis a couple minutes ago, has multiple different, you know, sites. Their whole pool area is very large. you know, you could have all of that information so that it was generally available from everybody who could log onto the network. Same thing with your supplies. Pre-summer season, assuming we actually have a summer season this year, it's a good time to go through and figure out what you're going to need to do. You might not want to hit the button on buying all of your stuff, making all of your purchases, but I think we can expect that a lot of these companies are going to want to move some inventory somewhere along the line, and it might be a way for us to, and not to be mercenary, but you can probably get some good deals at this point if you're looking, if you know exactly what you need to know. Also, while you're doing your supplies, you should be going through and inventorying all of your chemicals, and figuring out dates on your chemicals. Is there stuff that needs to be disposed of? Things like your testing reagents and stuff like that. I would say that one of the bigger things that you need to work on at that point, that most places need to work on, is your safety data sheets, what we used to call your material safety data sheets. And as you're going through and making your list of all the chemicals you have, again, it's time that you can go back to the websites and find all of that material. And again, create your safety data sheets binders in real life, or you can go back and make them virtual so that they're accessible from any computer that's on your team's network, or have it available on a thumb drive. So it could be, you know, multiple drives so that you could have it available to your operational leads as they need them, right? So that's kind of ongoing maintenance. Second thing, again, making lemonade out of some of the lemons here, or looking for silver linings. What are our staff training opportunities? And this is where we're going to need some feedback from folks. Is this a good time? We've been thinking at JCC Association about doing some online leadership training for mid-level managers. So we frequently hire head lifeguards that have all the technical skills of working at a pool. They've got their pool operator license, they have their lifeguarding skills, they're good at those things, but they may not have the experience in actually running a staff and doing the day-to-day sorts of stuff there. So are there possibilities for online leadership training for mid-level managers? Second thing, related to one of the things we were just talking about, is all the right to know training. This is your safety for chemicals and stuff like that. This is one of the things that I found as I visited a lot of JCCs that usually is kind of one of the last things that people manage to get to. And a lot of the right to know training is available online. I know that we have access to an online portal that provides a lot of the right to know training at different levels, depending on the access that people have to chemicals. But this is a good opportunity for us to do that. And it might also be a chance for us to look at new or additional skills. If we're not currently doing oxygen administration, you might want to think about looking at the background to this is, I think we have to accept that this is going to be an ongoing problem for an extended period of time. And we also don't know what the long-term impact is going to be to the people who do get infected, even if it's not fatal. So we know that people are suffering damage to their lungs, whether that's going to be long-term or short-term. We should still be thinking in terms of what we could do when we come out of this whole thing, in terms of what we could do to be safer and able to protect our members and our users. And I think that looking at the breathing emergency skills and the oxygen skills would be a good place to go. So things like BVMs, a BVM is effectively a manual respirator. So I know that we don't want to necessarily be thinking about that, but that's definitely stuff that we could be doing in the shorter term. All right. Social media.
Interrupt you here for a minute. We've got Aaron from Toronto was weighing in on a training opportunity. So Aaron, if you can unmute yourself and tell everybody exactly what this opportunity is, it'd be great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin. I'm actually the new aquatics manager over at Prosserman, which will be opening, if all goes well, in May 2020. So my feeling is when we start to let go of some of our, well, all of our staff, I wanted to start building up some of their morale so they will be able to potentially get more skills at home. By doing like a hybrid course, which would mean that we can have an examiner trainer. We can do all the training components either online. The examiner can give them homework to do. And then the examiner would take that information. Once our center is open, we can then schedule them to come to our center and then be able to be examined there and be able to get their certification. Some of the courses that we can offer be like getting their bronze examiner, any leadership programs really we could offer, even up to like first aid certifications. We can also do that as well.
Thank you very much. I would ask you to send me any information that you have, and I will be glad to include that in the follow-up email to all of you and to the field after that. And then if you have any questions, anyone else have any questions, you can respond to that. We're running, I can't believe how much time is flying. I'm going to put Bill on hold for a minute, and I'm going to turn this over to Jason to take 5 minutes to talk about how you can manage your staff through this period of disruption. Jason, are you ready?
Yes, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to take a real quick 5 minutes here. Again, I work mostly on the fitness membership side, but I wanted to share with everyone something I called managing your workforce through disruption, and we'll share this document after the meeting. I am confident everyone here was aware that we could work remotely from home. I'm also fairly confident that none of us had established policies and procedures in place to be able to do that. So we're all kind of scrambling to figure out how to do this now, how to get our staff engaged. So what I've done is I've gone around and aggregated a lot of the best practices of other agencies and industries and how they do it to give you some ideas of what we're trying to do in Pittsburgh and what might be of value to you. So the thing to keep in mind is that this innovation is generally not a gradual process. It really is just kind of driven out of necessity. Hence, none of us were really prepared for this. There's two things that you're going to want to establish right now before you really start managing your staff is you need to have a shared virtual workspace, right? So when your teams aren't all together under one roof, it's important to have a single place where everyone can go to get the information. And so
Jason, you frozen?
place.
Okay, you're back.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Go.
So the second piece is to make sure you have virtual meetings software. That would be Zoom, WhatsApp, Office Suite meetings. You're going to want to be able to have people meet with you one-on-one, but also as your all staff meetings, right? So not only do you want them to be able to get the information, but you're going to want to be able to communicate with them about the information, right? So here's the most important part. Do not assume that your staff knows how to work from home, right? We all think it's kind of obvious. You go home, you set up space, but don't assume this, right? So I'm going to give you a couple things that I want you to really think about here. You need to set expectations early and clearly. You need to be very defined in what you expect from your work first. You're going to want to set a schedule.
You froze again.
Make showing. You're also going to want to set meeting. Am I breaking up still?
A little.
I document afterwards as well in case it doesn't all come across. You also want to set up a weekly all staff meeting. You want to make sure that your staff has set up hours that they are to be working and available. You want to make sure that they're sticking, and you all would be assigning special projects, budgets, and business plans and such. Here's a couple things I
Okay, Jason,
recommend.
Up and you're freezing. I'm going to stop you here. And I know that he has this all down, and we're going to get everything that he was going to say to you. At this time, I'm
Make
going.
sure you all the morning ritual, right? So that they dedicated time to work. And the last piece is just make sure everyone establishes a working space. Make sure it's clear. Making sure it's not cluttered. if it's cluttered, it's going to limit your effectiveness and your ability to think clearly. Okay. So again, I'm going to share this document after the fact, but I just want to share with you all a couple best practices from around our field right now. Thank you, Steve.
Jason, thank you very much. I don't know if you heard me or Jason for that last portion, but you're going to be getting this after the call, so don't worry. We do not have a lot of time left, so what I would like to do with the rest of the time is turn it over to you. And Mackenzie is going to take over the Q&A portion of this, but if you have questions that you want to put out there for everyone, please take this opportunity to go to the chat room and enter them. And Mac, are we ready?
Yeah, I think the best way, just because there are so many people on the call, is if you do have a question, to use the chat option and just let us know if it's for Steve or Bill or Jason or anybody else on the call, maybe something sparked a question from your breakout room sessions or the activity that's already been in the chat. Just go ahead and let us know. And for those of you on the phone, I know you guys don't have that option, so feel free to just go ahead and start talking.
Hi, can you hear me, Mackenzie?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about, you know, the facilities side, but we haven't really talked about engaging our members, something that Steve brought up in regards to fitness. There's a lot for fitness. And then dry land, we're doing stuff for swimmers. Does anybody have any fun, like social media contests or anything that they're doing that they could maybe share to keep our aquatics members engaged so that they don't leave us and never come back?
Derek from the Alpert JCC in Miami. How are you?
Hey.
All right. So this is what we've put together so far. We're going to have the virtual dry lands done by our assistant coaches for the different levels of groups. If we can find a platform where we can actually stream that stuff to them, because we're not spending any money right now. And I think Zoom is only good up to 2 people for free. If not, we can record and send those dry lands. I also do a classroom session after practice every Wednesday where I take them up in my office. They get to pick one of my books out of my library and we talk about something they just flip the page and find. So I'm going to be doing classroom sessions with them every Wednesday night on a passage of something I find. And then the coolest one of all, I think, is we're going to do a virtual triathlon. So we have active stretching to start, and then you do an entire dry land that's totally different than the dry lands we do every day. That takes about 30 minutes. And then we trim that down for the little kids, obviously. The second, and that takes place of the swimming part of a triathlon. So it's dry land. And then we bike. So the senior groups will bike 10 miles. The gold group will bike 5 miles, and the little ones will go like a mile. If they don't have access to a bike or a stationary bike, we're going to have them do a little yoga instead. And we'll have that pre-planned. And the last part is a run. So the seniors are going to go a 5K, the gold group will go 1 mile, and the little ones are going to go 400 meters to 800 meters jog. And what they're supposed to do is videotape each other doing this, or have their mom videotape them or their dad videotape them in little pieces, obviously not the whole thing, and submit that to us through WhatsApp. And we'll have all these little submissions. But what they have to also do is submit us with their final time. How long did it take them to do this whole triathlon? And then we're going to have some type of like prize or recognition system. And that's where we're at right now. It's where we are on the first week where we've been kind of not allowed to meet. So, thank you.
Terrific, Derek. Thank you very much. I don't know if you're have the chat room feature open, but a lot of you are responding with things that are going on. We will summarize all of that in the follow-up, but there are some great ideas there. Does anyone want to share one of those?
So, hi, Carla from Pittsburgh.
All yours.
guys hear- Can everybody hear me? We're good? Okay. So, Derek, one of those platforms that you can use all year round, we have a great aquatics Facebook group that allows us to communicate with our aquatic swimmers. In there, we do like training tips, things like that. One of my assistants found a great website earlier. Nat, I think you're probably on here. Sorry, you can have it back if you want, but it's swimswam.com. Go ahead.
No, I was saying you take it away. You're good.
Okay. Natalie found a site that's offering 2 months of free swimming specific yoga classes, and it's at SwimSwam, swimswam.com. If you guys have seen that, that's another awesome one. But the Facebook group seems to help us stay connected with our members, and just doing simple things like this morning, I did a video from my bathroom just saying, hey, don't forget, we don't have a pool, but we do have our bathtubs for our preschool swimmers to practice blowing bubbles. So I'm sure you guys have all done those too. It's
That's
just
awesome.
to stay connected.
So I can create a Facebook group. It's not my team's Facebook page, right? It's something different.
So it goes off of our website is how we do it. And it goes right. We have our own JCC Aquatics Facebook group.
All right.
It's a closed group. It's a closed group. So you just, when you create it, you know, you would email the link of the Facebook group to all of your members saying,
perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Lane just asked an interesting question. Has anyone tried anything interactive with Learn to Swim participants? Anybody have any ideas on this one?
You know, I would say, Steve, this idea just popped in my head, you know, training parents how to hold their kids in the water. You know, you could make a video on that. We don't have the water or the pool, but if you can get in the bathtub with your child, if you have a big enough bathtub and you have a baby or an infant, maybe training them on those holds that we, you know, do in like the Parent and Me swim. That was just an idea, but.
So some of that stuff is available on the Red Cross's swim app. So some of the water safety stuff is also available. This is a good time to go find, a lot of people have mentioned it, but the Longfellow's Whale Tales materials have things like things that you can do at home. They have activity sheets, but there are also videos from that. And let me add that to my Red Cross to-do list to talk to them about whether those are available as like move files or things like that that we could actually post. I know you can link to them. I know that they're available online, so you could link to them on your Facebook page. But let me see if there's another way to get that. I also know that there's one on the holds that you were just talking about, but I have to go find it and figure out where it is. But there is an effective, there's a piece that's from the WSI training that I know is available as an online thing. Let me see if that's available or if that can be moved into a like a move file that you could post online as well. When you're talking about social media, you have lots of other opportunities. So with swim teams, it doesn't all need to be, you can do spirit stuff as well. I've seen some great things like have kids have their parents do a video of them trying to put on every single piece of team gear that they have. So like make a stack and how much of your team gear can you put on to wear in 30 seconds or something like that. Or put out a question of the day. What's the first restaurant you want to go eat at once the stuff is listed? What's the you know, those sorts of things. By the way, if you ask what restaurant you want to go eat at and you have a lot of people answer the same thing, I think you should send them an email and ask if they're willing to sponsor your team. You know, stuff like that along the way. So, you know, you can put out a question of the day and have people answer. Who's your, you know, what thing do you miss most from practice, right? And you'll get weird stuff like the coach yelling, you know, the coach always yelling this thing. What's the, you know, and by the way, if they say the coach always yelling, you know, gotta move or something like that, then get the coach on a video and have them do it. So it's like, hey, I understand you were missing me, so you can play this whenever you want, or use it as your cell phone ringtone or whatever, right? So there are other options that you have out there. I see some people smiling, and that's actually what we need at this point, is to think about that sort of stuff. I also think that for your if you do water aerobics and things like that, it is possible we used to work with a lot of seniors. There are definitely a lot of senior mobility activities and things like that. Check with the Arthritis Foundation, and they have a lot of lists that describe, if you have any Arthritis Foundation certified instructors, their materials have things where they can create a PDF that has a list of land exercises that they can do to help promote mobility. And I also think it's a great time for us to get involved in talking about water safety generally, not just the Longfellow stuff, but I think you can continue to establish your credibility and your brand as leaders in the water safety field by going out and talking about the general issues that WSIs would generally discuss, right? You know, like backyard water safety and water safety around the house. And just a reminder, parents, that. And I also have some information on kids who are on spectrum disorder. So if folks would like to have a further discussion about that, be happy to send more to folks about that as well. Okay, so are those a couple of good ideas?
Yes, I just have one idea. This is Jamie from the Pittsburgh JCC in the South Hills. I'm sure you guys all get a lot of parents this time of year. You know, my kid's afraid of the water, teach them how to swim in 8 weeks before summer starts. You know, now that might, you know, not be happening. Just to ease parents' minds, what about, you know, having them view or offer, I don't know if the Red Cross does, you know, CPR classes for, you know, the parents, at least so they, you know, get some education on how to keep their kids safe, since the swimming end might be, you know, not happening for a little while.
Okay, so hands-only CPR information is available that you can link to and send from the Red Cross website. So I am seeing my afternoon in my future where I'll get this list of things to Steve of the different resources and stuff like that that you can link to. I've also been talking with the Red Cross about the possibility of using some of our trained instructors to help with their effort on pandemic response, their education for pandemic response. So if you have lifeguarding instructors and water safety instructors who are used to teaching and working with groups, I've been talking with them about what we might do in that regard. And it's just not all done yet. This is a work in progress. As you guess, everybody's busy right now. So.
That's wonderful, Bill. Thank you. So we're going to be following this up with an email out to all of you. One of the things about during the downtime is professional growth. And so there's a lot of resources out there. Aaron mentioned one possibility, Bill did. I don't know if you're familiar with SCW. They do a lot of certification, and a lot of it is all moving online now. And we'll send you a link. They do one for water aerobics instructors. They have a whole platform called Water in Motion where there's different certifications there. I think that at this point, I want to just see if there's any more questions before we sign off. I don't want to take you, hold on a sec.
I just wanted to say, oh, sorry. Hey, Steve. I just wanted to say, seeing Carla reminded me of an idea that I got from the Pittsburgh J. Thank you guys. About in-service quizzes and sending that out to the staff as possibly an opportunity to A, get paid, and B, keep their skills and knowledge sharp. So like you could link the Red Cross book in an email and then create like a Google form with questions about a specific chapter or something like that to kind of test their knowledge. I thought that we did that this week because our staff's getting paid. So that would be helpful.
We have a bunch of those prepared. If anybody wants me to send them out, I'm happy to send those. A bunch of Google Docs with Red Cross videos, Google Answers. So, you know, they answer the questions, send it back to you, and it says how many they got right or whatever, but it just helps them to stay connected too.
That would be terrific. And then we're going to follow this up also with a survey to determine how to go forward, just so that you know, prior to all of this shutting us down, our plan at JCC Association was to start creating learning teams similar to the learning communities that Sheva do, if you're aware of that, where we would group you in years in the field. So aquatic directors that have been in their position for 3 years or less, we would get you together talking to each other by region of the country, by size of your facility, for those of you who have just one pool, for those of you who have multiple pools and multiple sites. And this is going to be happening, but we're not going to be doing these groups right now. We're going to get through this pandemic first, and we're going to start doing that, and they're going to be spearheaded by Bill and by Seth. And in the meantime, it doesn't mean that we can't start doing these kind of learning groups if you can give us what you'd like to see. So that's going to be one of the things I'm going to ask you on this follow-up survey. And then we need to determine what makes the most sense going forward for these groups, because we had 50 people in this group, and it is a little unmanageable in terms east of the Mississippi and west of the Mississippi, so you're on easier to do the same times. Or maybe it makes sense to start breaking you up by size of your JCC. But we want to hear from you. This call was really the first of what, well, ideally won't be a lot because we'll be through this, but I have a feeling we're going to be here for a while. So the plan is to connect all of you to each other, and going forward, we're going to be looking to you for the content and for a lot of the talking. So I want to thank everybody. Bill and Seth and I have a lot of homework making this so easy for all of us. And please stay in touch, follow up with any emails, questions that you have. I'm going to get stuff out to you as soon as I can. Thank you all for taking the time, and have a great day.